Hello, my name is Michael Dwan Herrick. I'm a psychotherapist and a life coach with over 40 years of experience, currently in private practice in London. This is the 19th video in my series under the title, Questioning Woke Psychotherapy. In this video, I will talk about meritocracy. The woke don't like the idea of meritocracy. Why not? Are they right? Are they wrong? Is this a problem? Is there a better view? And why does this matter in psychotherapy? Let's jump right in. Meritocracy is basically the idea that society should be set up so that individuals are able to advance based on their abilities, talents, and achievements. That success and opportunities should be determined by merit and performance. Merit refers to the quality or attribute of an individual that makes them deserving of praise, reward, or success. For instance, if you train and work hard at acquiring the knowledge and skills to do something useful, society should recognize this and reward you with resources or a job. Of course, you'll also have to compete with others for the same job, and they may have more merit. So merit doesn't guarantee you will get just what you want when you want it. So why wouldn't the woke like this idea? I imagine that many who share the woke concerns would endorse the idea of meritocracy if they felt that society was fair and that everyone had the same opportunities. If no one was judged on traits that had nothing to do with their abilities, then maybe meritocracy would make sense to them. But because society isn't fair and is controlled, according to the woke, by white supremacy, sexism, homophobia, and the like, meritocracy just doesn't cut it. They point out that focusing solely on meritocracy ignores social inequalities and leaves some groups to pull themselves up by their bootstraps. Exactly how unfair our society is may be a point of contention, but I have to say that I understand their concern. I think they're right to say that just going on about merit can leave other important things unaddressed. On the other hand, rejecting the idea of merit altogether and focusing solely on social activism and equity leaves merit unaddressed. So we wind up with what seems to me to be a silly argument between the two camps. Is it not obvious to anyone who pauses to think about it for a moment that each individual occupies the collective? What the individual does is important, but equally important is the social reality they do it in. Whether any of us succeed, however we want to define that, will be a product of the interaction between an individual and their social context. Ignoring or denying one or the other leaves us ill-equipped to succeed individually or create a fair society that fosters success equally as much as possible. Now I want to say more about what cultivating merit entails. In therapy, we might call it agency, but it amounts to the same thing. There may be more to it, but the following seems to me to be essential. Clarifying what one really wants out of life and what one wants to give. Creating some kind of plan for how to pursue what one wants. Acquiring knowledge and skills that are necessary for one's pursuit. Assessing one's strengths and weaknesses, capitalizing on the former and addressing the latter, delaying gratification, exerting effort and being persistent, dealing with both internal and external obstacles to success, learning how to communicate and get along with others, taking calculated risks, learning from failures, and not giving up. If we follow this basic path, we'll cultivate merit, which will hopefully serve to increase the number of opportunities available to us. If we don't follow this path, the only doors that will be opened are those pried open by equity policies enforced by the government. What happens when any of us reject the path of merit and account for our lack of success solely as the product of injustice? We're likely to feel angry and resentful. If we really believe that the system is set up to ensure our failure, then what is the point of taking on the hard work of cultivating merit? There is no point. Maybe the best we can do is either give up or join a social justice crusade to tear down the system that is oppressing us. My contention is that even in a social system that is not completely just, cultivating merit still makes sense and is necessary to feel that one's life is meaningful and has a chance at success. Maybe social justice activism can even be a part of one's plan, but this is not an exemption from taking responsibility for one's own development. And what does this have to do with psychotherapy? If psychotherapy is about facing and dealing with one's woundings and pain, processing and healing that, and finding a way to flourish in one's life, then rejecting the idea of merit is not at all good for therapy. If we are encouraged by our therapist to blame all of our pain and failure in life on an unjust social reality, we will begin to embrace victim mentality, nurse our resentments, and abnegate our personal responsibility for the quality of our life. On the other hand, if a therapist is just all rah-rah about merit and personal responsibility, unaware of the kinds of unjust obstacles that some clients may face, there will be an empathy gap. Some failures may not be the client's fault. They may be dwelling in shame that could be mediated by the therapist if the context and circumstances of the client's failure could be recognized. This is not to provide an excuse or to avoid whatever learning might be gleaned from the failure. It is to be real. The world isn't always fair, and that hurts. It also means that we have to dig deep and find the motivation to persist. A therapist can either contribute to the client's hopefulness and resolve to not give up, or contribute to their resentment and resignation. I believe, and I believe most codes of ethics for psychotherapists would agree, that a therapist's first allegiance is to each individual client they work with. It is that person's well-being that they should attend to. It is that person who is paying for the therapist's services. If or when a client experiences a social injustice, it is the therapist's job to help them contend with that and find a way forward. It is not the therapist's job to assume that a client is either privileged or oppressed based on their demographic identity and tailor therapy based on that in service to social activism. Failure to recognize and support a client's agency due to an ideological commitment that rejects the idea of merit causes harm. This is not therapy. It is social activism masquerading as therapy. Although not immediately relevant to psychotherapy, we could try to imagine a world in which the idea of merit was abandoned and the government meted out all resources based on equity formulas, the same to everyone, regardless of merit. Although in reality this could not be done, we could try to imagine the outcome. How could excellence be cultivated in any field of endeavor, whether medicine, technology, education, engineering, architecture, and so forth? What would motivate anyone to put in the hard work to be competitive in any of these fields? What would the world be like if the gains made by a meritocratic system began to deteriorate? Would this create a better social environment that would foster everyone's well-being and not be something therapists would have to contend with in their work? I don't think so. To sum up, I believe that the argument between ardent proponents of meritocracy and those who dismiss the idea altogether are silly and fruitless. An individual's personal effort and the social context in which that effort is made are both important factors that contribute to human flourishing or not. As for psychotherapy, I believe that therapists should be able to address both. However, while social justice issues may not always be relevant for every client, merit is always relevant. In any case, therapy is therapy and activism is activism. The former serves the individual client's needs, and the latter attempts to make society better or tear it down and start over. If you like this video, please give it a like, subscribe to my channel, leave a comment, share the video with a friend, push the bell for notifications so you get to hear about my next video. And in the meantime, take care of yourself, take care of each other, and I do hope you'll join me for my next video. Bye for now.